Well, it's Christmas, and a Merry Christmas to everyone who is celebrating this morning. It's a COVID Christmas. What does that look like? How would we normally handle this? Well, normally people would be getting ready to go to church. Where are we? About 7:30 in the morning. It's about right. But with South Africa battling now its second COVID-19 wave and new restrictions in place, this year's Christmas is looking very, very different. So let's find out how believers are marking this day. It's always a pleasure to welcome to eNCA Anglican Archbishop Thabo Makgoba. Archbishop, good morning to you. A Merry Christmas to you, your family, your loved ones. Tell me, what does your Christmas morning look like this morning?
Thank you so much. Let me also start by saying Merry Christmas to you, and thank you and your team for enabling us, even under these circumstances, to still be here and say Merry Christmas to your viewers. My Christmas, it really feels very funny and awkward, but we understand we have to put our masks, we have to social distance, we have to wash our hands regularly, and we have to now get used to having services online. Last night, the midnight mass at St. George's Cathedral, which normally starts at 11:30 in the evening, we had to start at 5 p.m. And we only had 100 people. It feels sad. It really feels sad, but it is the moment where we also have to absorb the sadness and know that this Christmas for me is almost like the first Christmas, because the story of Christmas truly is the story of dislocation, the story of disruption. A young couple, through political injunction, being forced to move from Jerusalem to elsewhere. The Magi from the east being forced to move. The shepherds moving out of their caves and from their animals to go somewhere. So it's a story of disruption. But within that disruption, we know that God just weaves into that sense of anxiety and weaves hope and gives us a flick of hope. So I hope, even in the midst of COVID, even in the midst of having to say Merry Christmas from home in the boardroom to the many followers, there is hope. And as Teresa of Avila says, even this will come to pass.
Archbishop, for those watching you at the moment, many followers, many believers would have made their way to church either this morning or sometime later this evening, depending on the denomination and where their churches are. It's about a community in church, isn't it? What does the Christmas COVID church community look like? Try and say that fast 3 times. The Christmas COVID church community look like this year. How are we able to celebrate without being with each other?
The Christmas COVID community, I like the three C's. It is still a story of capturing, I'm adding the fourth, capturing the imagination of, in the midst of that smell and squalor in a stable, something beautiful was birthed. The COVID has created displacement, has created more people without jobs, has created illness, has created anxiety. So in the midst of that squalor again, in the midst of that mug, God is there with us. The sense now that we could speak through the IT community, the WhatsApp, the Skype, the Zooms, is not good enough, but at least we are still able to connect and in our hearts know that many that I have prayed for, many that I have prayed with, many have died in hospitals without their loved ones, not being able to say goodbye. But God has spared us so far. So we still need to give thanks that now there is this community which may not replace the eyeball-to-eyeball community, but we must make the best out of it because we're trying to save life. We're trying to have a different Christian community that has been impacted by COVID. I don't think the cathedral will ever be the same. I don't think our congregations will ever be the same. I was serving Mass and I had to use sanitizers. I'm used to having many servers, but now I have to wear the mitre, hold the pastoral staff, and remember to incense again. So maybe we need to look at some of the clutter that we had to put into our ceremony and rituals and say, how do we simply worship and give thanks in the midst of joy, in the midst of trouble, in the midst of the mark, in the midst of uncertainty, and in the midst of anxiety. But the message of hope is even this will come to pass, and we need to play our part and make that Christian COVID community to bring hope to the hopeless, to bring food now via e-wallet, to bring food in different ways such that we don't increase the viral load.
Archbishop, just before I begin saying goodbye to you, in your final brief answer, the responsibility of churches this Christmas day. There are still churches who are going to encourage followers to come together despite all the technology available to us. Your message to those who are desperately wanting to go to church today, knowing they probably shouldn't because of COVID-19 protocols, and your word to those churches who are encouraging congregants to come together, albeit irresponsibly. As my final question and a brief answer from you, Bishop, Archbishop, if you may.
My words, please, let's save lives. Life matter. God loves each one of us, and God is not only in my parish. God is everywhere. Is God of everything. Please, if your church can't take the restricted 100 and it doesn't have proper protocols, please don't. Just worship God in the beauty of space, in the beauty of your home, and use technology. Where you can't, God, you are never alone. God is with you, even if you worship God in your home.
Well, I appreciate always speaking to you, Archbishop, wishing you, your congregation, your family, your loved ones, all the best for today's Christmas celebrations, wherever that might be. Archbishop Thabo Makgoba joining us here on eNCA.